Hello everyone and welcome back to another character review. Thank fuck we didn't have a giant gap, although it seems that we are going to get one pretty soon, ladies and gentlemen, as things are fired up when it comes to Natlan characters. My goodness, things are going somewhere, is what I have to say. So, today we'll be looking at Ororon. Ororon is an electro bow character, tall male, of course 4-star. And he is a sub DPS slash support only because of his artifact set that he mainly uses, which we will of course take a look at. He has very meh exploration capabilities inside of Natlan because the bat that he is based off is meh again, because it's like his increased jump is barely any useful, and then he just glides. He doesn't even like hover or anything, so he is very again meh. And outside of Natlan, my goodness, the stamina that he uses to do his jump is insane. Why the hell is it like that? You have Kinich and everybody that has, of course, their Night Soul gauge when they use their movement abilities. Why the fuck does a simple double jump basically need to use a hell of amount of stamina? I genuinely do not understand. You can't even use this thing on the air. So again, why does it even use stamina? It's just a shitty double jump. So, again, why does it use so much stamina, especially outside of Natlan? I don't know. But yeah, this is Ororon. He is okay. Just like I said, very meh in exploration and very meh when it comes to usefulness in your account and in combat. So, I guess we have to see why that is, right? Nothing is tied to his attacks. He's an off-field sub DPS. So again, nothing tied to his attacks, so we're not gonna be looking into depth on those. So we can immediately go to his skill. And his skill is very, very simple. It's just Baizu's skill without the healing. Yep, Ororon throws a little thing that bounces around on enemies. Exactly like Baizu. It does decent damage, it has some decent scaling, but it's very basic, and 50 seconds cooldown honestly is kind of higher than it should be for being such a basic ability. It generates a fine amount of particles on the first bounce. It doesn't need to do 3 bounces to generate all particles, and that's about it. Again, extremely basic, and again, 50 seconds cooldown I think is a little bit higher than it should be. I think 10 seconds is much better, just like Baizu's I think is 10 seconds. For a skill that it's literally just, again, like 3 bounces and it's done. And it also bounces only once per enemy. It cannot bounce back to the same enemy, which is like, why? I'm pretty sure Baizu's does that. Why shouldn't Ororon's? So that's the skill. As for his burst, he summons a little totem, I guess, that shoots ultrasound waves. I guess since he is kind of bat-themed, there's 3 waves, and this thing rotates, and the waves rotate with it, and they rotate pretty quickly. Very low damage, though. At level 9, these waves have around like 50% scaling, which is abysmally low, honestly. From my experience with a really well-built Ororon, he dealt like 5k at most from these waves, so it's like abysmally low for this scaling. It's got around 9 seconds duration with a 50 seconds cooldown, which is again alright for downtime since Electro is okay. It's not constantly needed in plenty of the reactions, and especially Ororon's reactions, which he's tailored at. So it's okay that it's got this downtime alright. It does have 60 energy cost, which isn't half bad, but it slightly depends on the teams. And that's the base kit. As for his talents, they are very weirdly written, of course, in classic MiHoYo fashion, but they go as such. His first talent is his Night Soul mechanics bullshit. He doesn't use Night Soul in his base abilities. When you trigger a Night Soul burst, Ororon gains 40 Night Soul points with a maximum of 80, and after using his skill, when any party member deals Electro or Hydro damage, he also gains a small amount of Night Soul points. Thank fuck. They changed this thing a ton in the beta, from just the dealing Electro or Hydro damage to needing a character to be Electro or Hydro to back to just dealing Electro Hydro damage. This completely saved him, else he would have been horrendous, I'm not even joking, because it ruined completely any combos with Anemo characters. But now it's okay, thank fuck, but thankfully it was changed, genuinely. But yeah, anybody that deals Electro Hydro damage in the party, which is, of course, Electro, Hydro characters, and, well, and Anemo, they give him a small amount of Night Soul points. And the way he consumes these points is that whenever an enemy takes electrocharged damage or Night Soul aligned damage, he consumes 10 points to do a Thunder Strike on up to 4 nearby enemies with a cooldown of 1.8 seconds. It's got okay scaling at 160% of his attack, but we are talking about a 4-star in terms of stats in a non-aggravate team with a cooldown. Compare that to Fischl, where she fits into aggravate, upping her damage a lot, and with EM scaling as well, and with no cooldown basically to her own similar passive talent. And even if hers has lower scaling, she ends up dealing a lot more damage compared to Ororon. So, yeah, it's meh, especially when it's locked behind Electrocharged or, of course, Night Soul aligned bullshit. His second talent is that when he hits an enemy with his skill, he gains a buff where whenever a party member hits opponents with attacks, they restore 3 energy, and if Ororon is off-field, he also gains 3 energy, with a maximum of 9, 3 times. Which is, okay, some extra energy, sure. All of Ororon's cons, because that's the base kit with talents, our damage increases, and with his C4 also including a small amount of energy restoration, and his C6 also including a 30% attack buff. Those are his cons. Honestly, I'm disappointed with Ororon. Not only is he very niche with Electrocharged, but his scalings are also just not that good. His burst deals minimal damage, and because of the 1.8 seconds cooldown on his passive talent, his damage is held behind a lot. And that's why all of his cons are damage increases, and none change up his abilities in interesting ways, which is very sad. Like, yeah, if you get a C6 Ororon, he's gonna deal a lot of damage with that passive talent, because again, all of his cons are about upping the damage of that passive talent. But still, like, it feels like he was held a lot behind, being locked to Electrocharged, and not being able to fully be used in something like Aggravate, which would have upped his damage even more. And 1.8 seconds cooldown on the Thunder Strikes, it could have easily been 1 second only, and it would have been much better. Artifacts-wise, Cinder City, which is the only thing that makes Ororon anywhere near useful, genuinely. Cinder City, where he gains a bit of energy from it, and he gives, of course, the huge 40% elemental damage buff if he does reactions. And again, it's the only thing that makes him useful, which is extremely sad, because why the fuck would you ever use Ororon if Cinder City never existed? Genuinely, even in AoE situations, a Beidou or a Fischl are 1,000 times better than fucking Ororon. Because the AoE of his burst is meh, and his skill is extremely basic, and it just, it doesn't last compared to Beidou and Fischl, or any other Electro, even Cookie, honestly, which, again, all of these can be used in Aggravate compared to Ororon. Like, again, if Cinder City didn't exist, Ororon would have been dead on arrival just like that. Cinder City is the only thing that makes him actually anywhere near useful to your account, honestly, and in Electrocharged teams. And as for stats, it's the main DPS build of attack, because he scales off of it, electro damage, and crit. While definitely making sure he has enough energy recharge. It depends a bit on the team, depends on the generation of particles, because even with his passive talent and Cinder City, I found myself in many times not having enough energy to use his burst as it was needed in my rotations. It depends on particles generated by the team, as I said, and that's about it. Get some decent AR, and then focus on attack and crit. No EM, since he isn't made for Aggravate. Which gets us 2 teams, and simply just Electrocharged. Any Hydro, any Electro, any Anemo, in any combo you want, and that can slot in Ororon. Right, that has the space for Ororon. Trying something like Hyper Bloom would only work with someone like Baizu or Yao Yao that have low to mid Dendro application that won't ruin your Electrocharged. To sort of like put in to add some Hyper Bloom damage, and maybe ever so slightly some Quicken damage. But mostly just adding in a bit of Hyper Bloom in there alongside the Electrocharged. I tried with just Aggravate, just to have some fun with Cinder City, since it is one of the only ways to get the Dendro damage bonus. And yeah, he for sure gives me a Dendro damage bonus and works on applying Electro, but he isn't dealing any damage, because 90% of his damage is his Electrocharged talent. You're pretty free to try anything you want to get in Electrocharged team, as I said, and anything non-Hydro, Electro, or Anemo would be someone like Zhongli or Zilonen for their universal red shreds that they have. And that's about it for teams. because there's nothing really that stands out for Ororon right now. Weapons-wise, you're looking for attack and damage with a very small dip into energy recharge. Do not try Stringless as I did, because his scalings are so bad that even the R5 Stringless that I gave him with 50% extra burst damage didn't make him deal significant damage with it. Which I thought would have been nice, like, yeah, the EM isn't crazy, but he's still an Electrocharged, and they did buff the scalings of EM on Electrocharged, but Stringless was fucking useless. Genuinely. Even with decent stats of it, nope, he was dealing like, wow, 5.7k with the burst, and like, whoa. So, yeah. Other than that, well, away from the Stringless, I myself am using an R5 sack bow because I do like the extra skill it's got. It gives you some good base attack for the attack percents that you have in artifacts, and it nicely secures any ER needs, but definitely not a damage-focused bow at all. I just use it because I had it laying around and I didn't have any other bows ready for him. Well, ready. I didn't have any available for him. So I just slotted in the sack bow, and I'm honest that it works. It works. It saves any sort of energy recharge stats that I would have needed. And again, it's got good base attack compared to Favonius. Honestly, don't use Favonius, use sack bow. I think it's a little bit better. It also fits really nice since his skill bounces around a lot. It means that you can trigger sack bow 3 times. So, again, it really works. But again, not a Ororon damage focused bow. It just helps him with a burst. Alley Hunter are high refines, if you can find them from the weapons banner, because that thing is hella rare, is one of Ororon's best 4-stars. Good base attack, nice attack substat, and the damage that you get from its passive is very nice, again, at high refines. And Ororon, being an off-field sub-DPS, has no problem with using the passive. The Fontaine Craftable Song of Stillness is also a very good option if you have the billets, and if you have a healer in the team, as it is very similar to Alley Hunter in what it gives you. Good base attack, attack substat, damage up if you get healed. Range Gauge is also a good option, but good luck once again finding it in the weapon banners, much like Alley Hunter. It also needs a healer like the Fontaine Craftable, since it is a Fontaine weapon banner bow. But at high refines, it is a very good option. And lastly, for 4 stars, is Chainbreaker, the Natlan Craftable bow. It's alright, since most likely you will have a variety of elements on the team. Ororon will get the attack stats that it gives, but good luck with the new bullshit billets that were definitely needed in the new region for the game. And as for 5-star bows, honestly, there aren't any options that really stick out a lot for Ororon as, oh yeah, this will be amazing on Ororon. Any basic crit bow is a basic crit bow that will do the job if you have a spare lying around. Skyward Harp, Aqua Simulacra, which is Yelan's bow, Thundering Pulse, which is Yoimiya's bow, heck, even Hunter's Path, which is Tinari's bow, are very pretty similar in performance. They give you some crit stats, varying base attacks, and their effects are okay. Elegy for the End is nice as a more supporting option, sacrificing Ororon's personal damage to buff the entire team with a very good attack and EM buff. And the ER substat should eliminate any need for ER on artifacts. Polar Star is another good option, as Ororon can gain a lot of attack through its stacks, 1 for skill, 1 for burst, and just shoot a normal attack arrow for an easy 3 stacks of the passive. So it is in general one of his best options. And Lini's bow, the first great magic, also sits alongside Polar Star, especially if you bring another Electro. And that's it. Yeah, does this feel quick? Because there's not much to say for Ororon, because his kit is unfathomably basic. And his performance is also just very meh. He's an incredibly simple off-field sub-DPS, and with the restriction to being in Electrocharge, which is an extremely niche team composition, by the way. There's not a lot of teams that use Electrocharged, genuinely. And the only thing that I can think of is my weird ass using Ororon with my Furina to buffer damage more. Yeah, fuck using Baizu to heal my team. I'm just gonna throw on C6 Furina normal attacks, I guess. Like, generally, that's what I'm doing. I'm just using Cinder City to buff my Furina to the absolute maximum, because I did not want to pull for Zilonen. That's all I'm doing. Because, like, who else? He is a good cheap option for Nuvilette. Since Nuvileta does like Swirl, he likes Electro Charge, he just likes Hydro-focused reactions to trigger his passive. He is a cheap option alongside with using Cinder City, but you can see that I'm always mentioning Cinder City because it's the only useful fucking thing that your Ororon brings in. Like, genuinely, if Cinder City didn't exist, because it is one of the most busted support set ever released, Ororon would be in the fucking dumpster. Which is extremely sad and tells you just how badly designed these Natlan supports are. Seriously though. Kachina, why the fuck would you ever use Kachina? Oh, but here comes Cinder City. Zilonen, she has an amazing kit, but even more boosted with Cinder City. Like, wow. Good way to power creep shit. But yeah, like, here's again, cheap option for Nuvilette if you want that. And then what else? What else benefits so much in Electrocharge from Ororon? Like, okay, Chaska. Wow. That's it. Like, extremely niche. The electrocharged bullshit is electrocharged bullshit. It could have been just electro reactions, let's be fucking honest, and he would have been 10 times, 100 times better, because he would have been able to slot into not just aggravate, but quick bloom teams, which would have been really nice. And like, AoE content, again, the AoE of his burst is really small. And I don't think that there's not a lot of AoE content that is very hard. Like, he's, like, just as a floor 11 character, like, no. Right? Like, yeah, he will do fine against the bosses and against 2 enemies. But just use Beidou or Fischl is basically the idea. Like, that's the thing. But of course, Cinder City. Like, it pisses me off, man. Like, genuinely pisses me off that he could have been really nice, but just punched into electrocharged and just being useful because of Cinder City. It's really missed potential, isn't it? Wow. Great. Though one of the absolute rare male characters that we get that is off-field, which, if I remind you, that last scene was Baizu. Like, generally, Baizu was the last male off-field character that we got. There hasn't been another one. And he's this mediocre and gated into a very low popularity reaction team. Like, seriously? Seriously? Like, come on. So, yeah, I'm pretty disappointed. I mean, design-wise, he's aight. I don't really like his design, I'm gonna be honest. Character-wise, he's okay. I'm fine, unless when Kitlali or Storari, man, that's how they pronounce the name in Japanese, it's insane. But whenever she's around, she drags Ororon to the fucking ground when it comes to character development and just being an interesting character. But like, outside of that, he's fine. But again, design-wise, what the fuck is my man doing with ripped jeans? Did he come out of a Hot Topic? Are we back to 2005 edginess? Because that's how he looks like. Even though his character doesn't say that. So yeah, like, Ororon, as much as I wanted him to be really interesting, he's just fine, I guess. Just there. He just exists, and he's going to be forgotten really soon, I guess. So yeah, that's very unfortunate. So that's that. As for other stuff, ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to character reviews, things are not looking good because Mavuika is a hot mess, and I hate Kitlali a lot, and I really do not care about her kit. But if you do care, pull like a madman, because Cryo is never coming back. I've seen this everywhere in social media, and you bet they're right. Pull for Cryo characters, you ain't seeing them in 3 years. And that's where I'm leaving you with this character review, because, my goodness, like, yeah, where's Ryo, baby? Where's Risley? Nowhere to be fucking found, because he's Cryo, and Cryo deserves the dumpster, I guess, based on MiHoYo's decisions. So, like, great. So, I have no idea when we're gonna be looking at another character. I guess maybe Arlecchino, as I've left her in the backlog like crazy, because I wasn't super interested in Arlecchino. And she will be a character, and again, I did mention that I would cover her if we had a giant gap. So I guess that's where we might go if we don't get another interesting character. So yeah. Additionally, the Spiral Abyss and Imaginarium Theater review, we'll see how late I am on that because it falls exactly on the start of the holidays. Like this, you know, the 16th of December and then the 25th is Christmas. I start my holidays exactly on the 16th. So we'll see if I'm able to upload that, and especially for the newer version, because it falls exactly in the holidays. Like the newer version, well, nice for many to fall on the holidays, not nice for me, because, you know, I won't have the time to make the video. So we'll see how late I am on this version's review, as I usually do them at the end, which again will be in the holidays, and then who knows what we'll do with the newer version. So yeah, sorry for that. I'll see what I can do with those videos, but yeah, expect the Spiral Abyss and Imaginarium Theater review to be next, followed by the version review, but don't have hopes for another character review because there's nothing interesting. So hey, that's it. Like the video if you liked it, sub to the channel to help it out, and I'll see ya in the next video. Goodbye.